Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive today. We're tackling a topic that's, I think, fascinated people for centuries, the lost city of Atlantis. We're going to be looking
Yeah.
at some really interesting evidence and theories. And what's particularly cool about this deep dive is that our primary source is an analysis video
Okay.
in Chinese. Talk about a
Wow.
global perspective
Yeah.
on a timeless mystery, right?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that these ancient stories,
Mm-hmm.
they really do hold this fascination for people all over the world. But
Yeah.
before we get ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
what are we even talking about when we say Atlantis?
Okay, so Atlantis 101. Think back to your high school history class, or maybe a really good episode of a certain time-traveling cartoon. And the name Plato probably rings a bell.
He's our main man when it comes to Atlantis. Plato, this Greek philosopher, wrote about this.
Yeah.
Incredible island nation, technologically advanced, powerful, and according to him, ultimately doomed.
Right. He describes this place ruled by Atlas, the son of Poseidon, no less. But Atlantis wasn't just some utopia. Plato paints a picture of a society that was also known for its, let's say, less noble qualities.
Yeah, greed, corruption, warmongering.
Yeah.
These were all part of the Atlantean story, as Plato tells it. And then around 12,000 years ago, it all came crashing down, literally.
Cue the dramatic music. A cataclysmic event, earthquakes, floods, the whole 9 yards. Atlantis vanishes, leaving behind only whispers and legends. Or so we thought.
Hmm.
Now, fast forward to the 20th century, and we have this incredible discovery, the
Yeah.
Eye of the Sahara, officially known as the Richat Structure. Have you ever seen pictures of it?
It's truly a sight to behold.
Mm.
From space, it looks like a giant bullseye
Yeah.
in the middle of the desert. It's huge, over 25 miles across. And the way these concentric rings are formed, well, it's baffled geologists for decades.
Astronauts first spotted it in 1965, and ever since then, people have been trying to figure out what caused this incredible formation. And that's where the Atlantis connection comes in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The video we're analyzing lays out some compelling arguments. First, there's the size.
Okay.
Plato gave specific dimensions for Atlantis, and wouldn't you know it, the Richat Structure is remarkably close in size.
Okay, that's kind of spooky right off the bat, but there's more, isn't there?
So much more. Plato describes Atlantis as being located near a strait, opposite a continent. Now let's look at the Richat Structure. Where is it? Near the Strait of Gibraltar, across from, well, I think you can guess.
A continent.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why people are so intrigued by this. But hold on, isn't there something about ancient maps that also ties into this?
You're thinking of Herodotus, another Greek historian? He drew a map, and get this, his placement of Atlantis is strikingly close to the location
Yeah.
of the Richat Structure, almost like he had a Google Maps view of ancient Earth or something.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. It's like all these little pieces of the puzzle are starting to click into place. But wait, there's something else about resources, right? Both Atlantis and the area around the Richat Structure have something in common.
You're right. According to Plato, Atlantis was rich in precious metals, gold, silver, iron. And guess what?
What?
Modern-day Mauritania, where the Richat Structure is located, has significant deposits of these very same resources.
Okay, so size, location, resources, all
Yeah.
lining up. But isn't there something even more specific, something from local legends?
There is, and this might be the most intriguing piece of the puzzle. Local legends in Mauritania claim that their first king was also named Atlas.
No way! That's too much of a coincidence, isn't it?
It certainly raises some eyebrows. You have to wonder, could this be a genuine echo of a historical connection passed down through generations? Or is it just a fascinating but ultimately meaningless parallel?
To answer that, we need to dive a little deeper into what Plato actually said about Atlantis' fate, especially that phrase, a place ships cannot reach. That's where things get really interesting.
Okay, a place ships cannot reach. I mean, that sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Wait.
Atlantis sank beneath the waves, lost to the depths of the ocean. End of story. That's the common interpretation, for sure. It's certainly a dramatic image. But what if we challenge that assumption? What if, instead of sinking, Atlantis rose?
Wait, Rose, you mean like out of the water? How would that even be possible?
Well, think about it. Plato describes this cataclysmic event. What if that event involved massive geological upheaval? I mean, we know that tectonic plates shift. Land masses rise and fall. Sea levels change over time.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. But wouldn't there be like physical evidence of this kind of upheaval?
There is. Geologists have found evidence of water erosion on the Richat Structure. And remember, it's not a crater, as some might think, but a raised plateau.
A plateau, so it was pushed up from below.
That's the theory. It's possible that what we see today as this desert formation was once submerged And this cataclysmic event that Plato describes,
Yeah.
it might have been the very force that thrust it upward.
Okay, I have to admit that's a pretty mind-blowing concept. But if that's the case, wouldn't we need to rethink our whole understanding of ancient sea levels?
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. You see, current sea level models suggest that around 12,000 years ago, the time of Atlantis' supposed demise, the ocean was actually lower than it is today.
So if the Richat structure was underwater back then, the sea level would have to be significantly higher, right? Hundreds of feet higher.
That's the dilemma.
Yeah.
And it's a big one. But it's important to remember that our understanding of ancient sea levels is based on models. And these models are constantly being refined as we gather more data.
So there's room for adjustment.
Absolutely. What if, and this is purely hypothetical, what if the cataclysm that destroyed Atlantis caused a temporary localized surge in sea level? A massive tsunami, perhaps, triggered by the geological upheaval.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking about a potential event so significant that it could temporarily rewrite the rules of sea level behavior.
It's a possibility, and one that would certainly need more investigation. But it's a reminder that we shouldn't be afraid to challenge existing paradigms, especially when we're faced with evidence that doesn't quite fit the conventional narrative.
This is what I love about these deep dives. They force us to think outside the box. Okay, so I've got this potential location, matching descriptions, intriguing local legends, and the possibility of a cataclysmic event that could explain the sea level puzzle. But let's step back for a moment. Why does any of this matter? I mean, it's a great story. But what are the real implications if this is truly Atlantis?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
it would completely upend our understanding of ancient history.
Hmm.
We tend to think of civilization as this linear progression. But what if there were advanced societies,
Yeah.
far earlier than we currently believe?
Like technologically advanced, Plato does describe Atlantis as having some pretty impressive innovations, right?
He does. And if we find evidence to support that, it would challenge our assumptions
Yeah.
about the capabilities of ancient cultures. It would also raise some fascinating questions about the origins of myths and legends. Could it be that some of these stories we dismiss as pure fantasy are actually echoes of real events, distorted and embellished over time?
It's almost like we're unlocking a hidden chapter in the human story. But if the Richat structure is Atlantis, what happened to its people? I mean, did they all perish in this cataclysm?
That's a question that takes us deep into the realm of speculation. Plato suggests that the Atlanteans, or at least their ruling class, were punished for their hubris, their greed, their warmongering. But what if some survived? What if they fled the destruction and carried their knowledge and their culture to other parts of the world?
Okay, now that's a fascinating thought. Could there be traces of Atlantean influence hidden in plain sight, maybe even woven into the cultures and the myths of other civilizations? We're talking lost technologies, forgotten wisdom, perhaps even. A completely different way of understanding the ancient world. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, and that's exactly why. I think the Atlantis mystery continues to fascinate us. It challenges us to reconsider what we think we know about the past and contemplate the tantalizing possibilities that lie hidden just beyond our current understanding.
So if we entertain this idea of Atlantean survivors, where might they have gone? Are there any cultures or myths that particularly stand out as potential candidates for Atlantean influence?
Well, there are a few intriguing possibilities. For instance, the ancient Egyptians. They had surprisingly advanced knowledge in areas like mathematics, astronomy, and architecture. Could there be a connection there?
And what about the stories of other lost civilizations, like Lemuria in the Indian Ocean or Mu in the Pacific? Could these be connected to Atlantis in some way, perhaps representing different colonies or outposts of a once vast Atlantean empire?
Those are fascinating questions. And then there are the myths and legends that seem to echo the story of Atlantis, stories of floods, lost continents, and advanced civilizations that vanished from the earth. Are these simply universal archetypes? Or could they be fragments of a shared memory passed down through generations?
Wow. It's almost like we're piecing together a giant jigsaw puzzle with the Richat structure as this central piece that connects all these other seemingly disparate elements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like a puzzle, there are pieces missing. And the picture isn't always clear. But that's part of the excitement, isn't it? The challenge of fitting the pieces together, of trying to understand the bigger picture.
It definitely keeps things interesting. But let's be realistic for a moment. What are the chances that we'll ever find definitive proof of Atlantis? Proof that satisfies even the most skeptical scientists and historians?
Well, it's the million-dollar question. If the Richat structure is indeed Atlantis, it would likely require extensive archaeological investigation. the kind of investigation that would take years, if not decades, to complete.
And even then, there's no guarantee that we would find what we're looking for. The desert is a harsh environment,
Hmm,
and any artifacts or ruins could have been eroded away or buried beneath the sands over thousands of years.
that's true, but there are also technologies that could potentially help us peer beneath the surface. Things like ground-penetrating radar or LIDAR, which could reveal hidden structures or anomalies that might be worth investigating.
And, maybe it's not just about finding physical proof. What if we discovered ancient texts or inscriptions, or even oral traditions that shed new light on the Atlantis story? What if we found evidence of cultural or linguistic connections between seemingly unrelated civilizations that pointed towards a shared Atlantean heritage?
Those would be incredible discoveries, and they highlight the fact that the search for Atlantis isn't just about archaeology or geology.
Hmm.
It's also about history, mythology, linguistics, and even philosophy. It's about questioning our assumptions about the past and exploring the boundaries of human knowledge.
And perhaps that's the most important lesson we can take away from this deep dive. The search for Atlantis, whether it's a real place or a powerful metaphor, reminds us to stay curious, to challenge conventional thinking, and to never stop exploring the mysteries of our world.
Well said. And even if we never find definitive proof of Atlantis, the very act of searching, of questioning, of exploring, enriches our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
Absolutely. So what do you think out there in listener land? Could the Eye of the Sahara be the remnants of the legendary Atlantis? Is it a natural wonder with a coincidental resemblance to Plato's description? Or is it something else entirely? We'd love to hear your thoughts, and remember, no matter what you believe, keep that spirit of curiosity alive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries that surround us. Thanks for joining us.